A triumphant homecoming today for the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas was greeted by cheering crowds in Ramallah, fresh off his trip to the United Nations, where he demanded that Palestine be recognized as a state, a move that is vigorously opposed by both President Obama and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who on Friday called for direct negotiations right now.
We've both just flown thousands of miles to New York. Now we're in the same city. We're in the same building. If we genuinely want peace, what is there to stop us from meeting today and beginning peace negotiations?
And joining me now, Hanan Ashrawi, a top Palestinian negotiator. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Christian. It's good to be here.
It's really good to have you to talk about this really important issue.
Absolutely.
Is there a day after President Abbas did what he did? Prime Minister of Israel has said, come on, let's talk. Let's not wave papers around. Is there negotiations in the offing?
Well, you know what we've been doing for the last 20 years? We've been negotiating, Christian. We've been negotiating ad nauseum with a process that had no relationship to reality. That's the problem.
So what happens now, though? Now we're in a new situation.
Negotiations are not an objective. They are a means, and these have been a very flawed instrument. Either you fix the tool, the instrument, or you find alternatives. So if you negotiate and you buy Israel time to create unilateral facts, to build more settlements, to steal more land, it is in danger of destroying the whole, not just peace process, but the prospects of peace.
The United States and its allies, the Quartet, UN, etc., have called for talks to start and to be concluded by the end of 2012. Is that
Absolutely.
remotely possible?
Look, what's possible is, and we've said this very clearly, if Israel commits to the terms of reference 67 boundaries, the two-state solution, Jerusalem as the capital, and with a time frame, binding time frame, as well as cessation of all settlement activities. Israel talks about the two-state solution, talks about talks, but is busy stealing the land. It has stolen over 40% of the West Bank, and it has annexed Jerusalem, and it has changed the terms of reference and the agenda. And so if they commit, we will negotiate. If they don't commit, then we have to look for alternatives, because this is the end of the two-state solution. Look, Christian, we've known each other for years. I'm not prone to hyperbole or lies or anything, but and no panic politics. But when President Abbas said this is the moment of truth, this is it, because soon there will be no two-state solution.
So people are concerned that he may have raised his people's expectations, that this is just going to deepen intransigence from the United States, from those opposed to these unilateral moves, and could lead to violence in the territories. Do you think that's possible?
Look, the only unilateral moves are Israeli moves on the ground. The siege, the apartheid wall.
But what do you think is going to be the reaction of the Palestinians?
No, the Palestinian people are very political, very astute, and they know that this is a new phase. This is not the end of the road. This is the beginning of a new phase. That for 20 years, we've seen more lives lost, more land lost, more freedoms lost, and Israel has maintained the enslavement of the whole Palestinian people. They want to see a change in the modus operandi. They want the Palestinian, not just identity, but rights to be vindicated and to be based on international law and international humanitarian law. If this doesn't happen, then the power politics of a brutal military occupation will prevail.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, as you saw, said, let's talk now. One of the things he spoke very loudly about at the UN was recognize Israel as a Jewish state. If you want a Palestinian state, fine, recognize Israel as a Jewish state.
Look, we recognized Israel in
93. Because the Quartet's even
we recognized Israel in 93. If Israel wants to change its name, it has to go to the Security Council or whatever and ask everybody that's recognized it to recognize it again as a Jewish state. We want a Palestinian state that is pluralistic, inclusive, and tolerant. I don't want an Islamic state or a Christian state. Why should I want a Jewish state? But at the same time, look, in Israel, there are Palestinians who are Christians and Muslims. And when we say the Jewish state, it means not only are they legitimately discriminated against, but that the Palestinian refugees have no right to return. Now, if Israel wants to call itself a Jewish state, then it has to go the proper procedures to change its name.
But as you know
but
very
we
well,
recognized it already. How come we're the only people who are asked to re-recognize Israel.
But you know very well, and I know we're not going to negotiate this now, but the whole
Yeah.
issue of return is a big issue, and they won't all be allowed to go into Israel.
You see, that's the problem. Israel has placed so many preconditions. It wants to annex Jerusalem. It wants to remove the refugees from the agenda. It wants to keep its troops in the Jordan Valley. It wants to control our... It wants everything, and it wants to annex all the settlement clusters, and then says, let's talk. No, these are unacceptable preconditions. Either you negotiate in good faith and act accordingly in order to achieve the two-state solution, or this option will no longer be available, particularly given the Arab Spring. This is a new phase, this is a new region, and it's a new ball game, and they should understand the significance.
And we'll keep watching it. Complicated issue as ever. Hanan Ashrawi, thank you very much indeed for joining us.